Fellow Toastmasters and guests, there's a quote that says, if you know and love light, you will know the key to photography. Now, I'm not technically very up on photography, but I love light, and I love scenes, and I love nature, and I love photography. My father was a photographer. We used to live in Africa when I grew up, and I always heard him talking about the light, different shades of light, different times of the day. And he had this passion and glint in his eyes. He used to go on safaris and photograph wildlife. He used to photograph nature. And there was one photograph I remember when I was 6 years old. It was a dragonfly, and the wings were sparkling. And I felt what he felt when he took that photo. I never developed an interest in photography until about 7 years ago, when I needed book covers for my books, and I needed photographs for the books I've written. So I thought the only way to do it is to take my own photos. That way I avoid copyright problems. So I started. I took photos in England, I took photos in America, I took photos in Switzerland. And from that moment, I loved photography. Just loved it. Now I can go places and I feel my camera is my friend. I used to dislike going into big cities. I didn't like the crowds, I didn't like the noise, I didn't like the commotion, all the hurly-burly. Now I can go into a city with my camera and I feel completely at ease, completely relaxed, and I feel very grounded. So I think photography for me is a way to relax, a way to go into timelessness. And Pablo Picasso said, if you love photography and art, it's a way to clear the soul from the dust of everyday life. And I think that's very true. When I take photos, I have a feeling of each place that I photograph. And so I've written the history, and I've written a little uplifting message that goes with every photograph. And I hope I can share that feeling. So when somebody sees one of my photos, this is a cottage in England. The feeling I get when I see this is, home is where the heart is. So I always feel wherever I am, home is where I am. Home is where the heart is. And this picture reminds me of that. There's a place in England where the bluebells come out every May. They're like bluebonnets, but they're actually called bluebells. The bluebells carpet the forests with blue, a very vibrant blue. And this place that I go to, in England, it's an old Iron Age site, it's an archaeological site. There was a settlement there 5,000 years ago. So whenever I go here, I feel like I'm immersing myself in some ancient tradition, ancient feeling. And so I've written about the history of this, and the message is also about springtime. We feel things are new after the winter, after sometimes the coldness and heaviness of winter. We can wake up to this vibrant light again. So that's that photo. I also have lived in Switzerland many years, and this is something I particularly love. It's an old monastery, it's 1,000 years old. And it's in a place called Stein am Rhein, and it's on the Rhine River. And I took this photo of the monk. It's actually a statue, but it's how the monks used to be 1,000 years ago. And this makes me feel quiet. It's reflective, it's meditative. So if I feel like I want to be in a quiet mood, I just look at my photo. So I have developed a love of photography. Bernice Abbott says photography helps people to see. And I think that's that's true for me. I really observe things like I've never observed them before, especially nature. I have a friend in Seattle. She's also a photographer. And she says photography is her antidepressant. And I think that's very, very profound. She said whenever she feels depressed or she's falling into a funky space that doesn't feel good, she takes a camera and off she goes. And she produces the most beautiful pictures. She's got one photo of a chair in a lavender field. And it's so uplifting, it's so beautiful. You just want to sit in that chair and enjoy the fragrance and the colour. Dirk Bogarde, he said, the camera can photograph thought. When I've taken photographs of people, I can imagine sometimes what they're thinking, and I'll photograph that, and I do ask permission too. That particular photograph, and I have about 3 of them, transfers a certain thought and a feeling. So I think Dirk Bogarde was very right on with that. To conclude, this is a quote that I love. It's by Ansel Adams. He says, you don't take a photograph, you ask quietly to borrow it. Thank you very much.